Good evening. Thank you for coming to this special live Endangered Stories presentation. I decided to do this one live because, well, in all honesty, every single story that we do here, every video that we produce is special. Every single one takes weeks and weeks of preparation, of research, of communication with the people who are involved. Either they're giving the historical content, or they're filling in gaps in the story, or they're being interviewed. It takes a lot of time to produce these videos, even the shorter ones. But every now and then there's one that comes along that is a bit more unique. It stands out amongst all the other ones that we've produced. And that's the case with this one tonight. So the quick nutshell about what I'm going to show you tonight, because I don't want to take too much of your time. I want your attention to be more on what's going to follow this little introduction. This short documentary that I'm going to show you hasn't been seen for the most part in about 38 years. Unless you've been given a copy 38 years ago, it was on VHS, so if you had a copy, then you probably haven't seen it in a while. And if you weren't given a copy, chances are you may not have seen this, or you might not even know that this existed. It's a very special video in that it's a documentary about Point Claire. And following the documentary that I'm going to show you, the original that was produced in 1985, I'll be doing an interview with one of the creators of the documentary. And she'll explain sort of how the documentary came about and how it was produced and why it was produced. And to make a point that the people who were interviewed in this era and the date that this video was created gives us a direct window into an era that we can't get anymore. Unless you've done interviews with those people who were born in 1900, between then and 1915, it's gone. So that's why I call this the single most valuable historical source right now in Point Claire. So without further ado, this was shot and produced 38 years ago. So let's adjust the screen. Let's bring in the borders here. Okay, and let's make it fixed for how we used to watch TV. And I present to you Destination Point Claire. See you after the show.
Cedar Park Station. A train rumbles in, carrying commuters from the city. A 20-minute ride brings many of them to their homes in Point Claire, a small West Island community in the outskirts of Montreal. With a population of close to 25,000, almost 11% are senior citizens. Some of these citizens have memories that go back some 70 to 80 years. They remember a time when life in Point Claire was not as cosmopolitan. Here is where it all began, a tiny windswept point of land in the West Island of Montreal. After the Lachine massacre in 1689, the French militia needed to construct a series of forts from which a clear view of the river could be obtained. With access to the landward side, not more than 30 meters wide, with a clear view for miles of river in both directions, this point of land was a natural choice. The windmill, built in 1700, served as a redoubt and was equipped with gun holes in case of Indian attacks. Today, it serves as Point Claire's trademark and is used for storage by the sisters from La Congrégation Notre-Dame. Point Claire remained a predominantly French-speaking farming community until the turn of the 20th century. By that time, it had seen 4 churches, 2 of which were destroyed by fire in 1881. The one you see here today was built in 1885 and stands just adjacent the original point. In the year 1900, another fire just about destroyed the whole village. At the end of the rage, 23 buildings had been burned and damages were estimated at more than $200,000. By the time Pointe Claire became a town in 1911, it was an established summer residence for thousands. In those days, a trip from Montreal along the lake shore was quite a journey. Mrs. Evelyn Wheeler is one of the few who remembers her first visit.
Well, the first time we came in a horse-drawn rig, and that was interesting.
How long would it take to
Oh, I don't know whether I can remember that or not, but it seemed to me it was about all day. We'd leave early in the morning and it'd be late afternoon.
In the past, Pointe Claire was mainly divided into 2 different cultural groups. There were the villagers and farmers, and then there were the Montrealers, who solely used the area as a summer resort and playground. Herbert Amberg, a long-time Valois resident, recollects those times.
Well, going back about 50 years, it was mostly all people come out here just for the summer, and they'd move back to town or to Montreal in the fall, and they'd come out again next summer. At least the board there was most buildings were all summer buildings, except up further near the village with the stone. Now they were all year-round residents.
At the height of its popularity from 1890 to the end of World War II, Pointe Claire attracted Montreal's high society and offered many holiday spots and activities. Vacationers flocked to country estates, summer houses, and resort hotels. Daytimes were spent swimming, sailing, canoeing, sunning in the gazebos that dotted the lake shore, or playing tennis and golf. Evelyn Wheeler's earliest memories of Pointe Claire are those of the good times she spent there as a child.
Well, you made your own fun. There was a tennis club, and of course there's the golf course has been there, and the boys used to caddy. But I know we just had real good fun.
Did you enjoy
Swimming was our main activity, I guess, because everybody would gather together in the water.
Mrs. Anita George, another early summer resident seen here as a child, tells us about the beaches along Lake St. Louis.
Well, there were beaches, but if you could call them beaches, we did. We called them beaches, but there were stones, and then underneath the stones was sand. Actually, if you pulled them aside when we used to build things, but we called them our beaches in front of all our properties. And the great thing were corn roasts on the beach, bonfire. You made your own bonfires for years and years.
We used to bathe right out here, and it was kind of a beach, a stony beach right at this point. A bathing garment in those days, you had to reach your knees, covered your shoulders, and we wore stockings, and the boys wore one-piece bathing suits.
Were there any regulations concerning the beach and the swimming suits and...
Oh, yes. As I said, you couldn't cross the road without a coverall of some kind on our house just walking across the road. You'd either be stopped by the police, even if you were a child, or the old curé, forgotten what his name was, from the church, from St. Joseph Church. And
Why was that?
Well, it was immodest and terrible, I guess. I'd run. I remember my brother and I running quickly, not wanting to put anything on, put our bathing suit on, run across the road to the beach. And we'd get caught sometimes. Even the police would stop you. The motorcycle police from Cochrane would stop you and say, go and get something. Either go down and change in your boathouse or put a cover on. I went on way into, let me tell you, into how can I say, in the 20s.
Boating on the lake was another popular activity. Adelaide Bacon, whose husband was a member of the yacht club for many years, describes what it was like before there were any wharves.
Boats didn't tie up there at all. They were all moored out on their own moorings out in the bay.
And how did they get to the boathouse?
Well, you each had your own dinghy, which you tied on the back of your boat to the stern, and when you went out sailing, you trailed it behind. Or if you went away for the weekend, your dinghy was there so that you could row ashore. If you wanted to leave your boat anchored out somewhere, people didn't tie up to wharves then the way they do now.
While daytimes were usually spent outside, guests who wanted to kick up their heels would go to the Maples Inn, the Edgewater, the Valois Country Club, or the Chateau St. Louis, where there were ballroom dances every weekend.
Oh, they were nice places. The Edgewater and the nice places, and the Maples, they were the two nicest places on the lakeshore out here for dancing. And the Maples also had a beer garden. If you didn't want to go in and dance, you could the beer garden with a sports shirt on and drink a quart of beer, a pint of beer. The quarts were 50 cents and the pints were 35, which is a very nice price.
Anita George remembers the original Edgewater.
The waterfront was grass, lovely, beautiful, beautiful lawns. All the part of the waterfront was big lawns. It was a magnificent property. There were no driveways or anything, just a path came in. Originally, it was all the front was very big and beautiful grass, and beautiful trees. And then it was only cut, it was just one driveway cut when the Mount Stephen Club person took over, and then it was all chopped up afterwards. It's unrecognizable now to what it was.
Although Herbert Emberg was more of a sportsman, he well remembers the Valois Country Club.
Well, I believe that 2 nights a week they had a show, moving pictures and talkies, and 2 nights a week they were dancing. It was very, very late, a very large dance floor. They had galleries right around the outside of the building. People used to go out there in a warm night and sit down and go inside and dance to a live band. Have refreshments served to them inside with tables, individual tables, and for the other evenings they would take the tables away and put the chairs up for the show.
The movie?
Movies. Very popular performer at that time was Shirley Temple. Every time they had a Shirley Temple picture in there, you couldn't get a seat.
Although summers were the main attraction, Pointe-Claire also had its winter activities.
We had our hockey rinks. If you wanted to play hockey, you had to get out and shovel snow yourself.
Mr. Herbert Emberg was part of the Valois Bantam hockey team. He is seen here, second from the right.
There were teams competing against each other, like, for instance, Lakeside had a team, Pointe-Claire had a team, Valois had a team, Cedar Park had a team. The different localities within the city of Pointe-Claire had a hockey team.
Mr. Art Legault, who ran the village market, also has memories of childhood in Pointe-Claire.
Well, it was mostly farmers, and except the village, and it was a summer place, but 6 times as much population in summer than in winter. And it was quiet, but we had to make our own fun. When I was a kid, I think it was nice. Wintertime it was sliding, skiing, skating on the outside rinks, ice rinks.
In the winter, few but villagers stayed behind. There was no metropolitan highway, and nothing but farms north of the railroad tracks. Valois was just beginning to develop. Lakeside had a few homes, Bowling Green was under construction, and Cedar Park had a few permanent homes. All of it in a narrow strip along the shore of Lake St. Louis, south of the railway. In sharp contrast to the lives of the villagers and summer residents, we have Monsieur Legault, who was raised in a farmhouse similar to this one.
Our main source of income was the milk. We sold the cream and then the milk to a milkman who then distributed it in the village of Point Claire and around in the region. Our principal livestock was the cows, but we also had a lot of pigs and some crops. Life on the farm was very hard. Taking care of the animals and preparing the food took up a lot of our time. Nothing was ever wasted. Pigs were eaten from head to toe with nothing left out. Even the tail was used as bubble gum for the children. Foods that would spoil in summer were kept fresh in cool wells under the ground. There was not much entertainment. Daytimes were spent working and night times were spent playing games in the candlelight. Although I did enjoy growing up and living in the early 1900s, there came a time in my teenage years when I wanted to do something else. I remember hoping to go out to see Montreal because Montreal seemed far in those days. In order to get there, we had to get to the railroad tracks, which were a couple of miles from the farm. This event of going to Montreal occurred only twice a year and to go shopping only because it was so hard and expensive. We did not have much money then, and we did not go to Montreal for entertainment, but because we had to. I remember thinking to myself, wouldn't it be wonderful if one day I could go to Montreal frequently? Today it has become very easy, but it was very hard then, and it was the same for all families.
Even though the farmers were no more than a few miles away from the main community, their environment was secluded and their lives very different from those of the villagers. This is mainly due to the fact that their leisure hours were almost non-existent, since they had very little time for other than working the land and tending the livestock. Although the villagers and farmers were almost totally francophone and shared a common culture, the lifestyles of the villagers seemed closer to that of the summer residents, the common denominator being that they both lived in the same social environment.
The relationship between the French people and the English people were very, very good. A few years ago, going back a few years, the majority of people in the town of Point Claire were French people. In Valois district, like Kings, Queens, Prince Edward, Broadview Avenue, Summerhill, and Mount Pleasant and Belmont were all, that was considered Valois, and they were mostly English people.
I don't think it was any different. Of course, the people who'd always lived here in the village, they were sort of a little different because it was their home. We were coming in from outside, but we were all very friendly.
The mentality was very familiar. We had to depend on friends to make the life worthwhile, but I think it was very nice.
Oh, very friendly, very friendly.
Point Claire remained relatively unchanged by the First World War, and it was not until the Depression that the community began to feel the first signs of transformation.
Oh, we felt it like everywhere else. Only being, especially in winter when the population were so small and hardly any work, everybody that was working were winning between 20 and 25 cents an hour. So we had to help each other, little credit here and there, but never unhappy about it.
Well, they were the same as everywhere else. You did with a great deal less than you thought you could. But they were difficult years. Well, those were difficult times. You know, we had the dirty 30s. We had Depression years. And you younger people don't know what that was like at all. And we had wars and things that you haven't experienced.
I don't think it's never been as bad as what the young people today have to go with or put up with. I feel sorry for the young people that just gone out of their university or school and there's nothing to do. It wasn't quite as bad in those days. It was hard, but not as bad.
Although the Depression did not affect some as much as others, not as many people were visiting the area anymore. The Depression had affected business in some hotels so badly that even Chateau Saint Louis in Valois Bay had to close its doors. In 1940, it was demolished to accommodate the new Highway 20. During the Second World War, many of the Pointe Claire men marched into foreign lands to fight while women remained at home.
Well, in the community in World War II, the women had various organizations. There was a very active Red Cross, Central Red Cross, that was in the town hall, the central part of it, and then we had many branches in our various homes. A group of younger women, perhaps, who couldn't get out because they had young children at home, would work together, perhaps 1 or 2 evenings a week, and you would, we'd all, the central organization would send us out garments already cut. For instance, I think we sewed mostly on men's pajamas. And so we'd have to bring our own sewing machines, and in the winter I'd bring mine on a toboggan, and in the summertime on a coaster. There very few people had any cars then. There were no cars around. There were a few taxis, and the men used those at times to go to the station. And they'd meet the trains, and I remember as many as 10, I'm sure there'd be 10 people in a taxi to come down the station road. And on one occasion, I remember, the driver got in the trunk and had one of the passengers drive so he could get an extra person on board. Then we had the Women's Volunteer Reserve Corps. We did military drill. We went on route marches, and I don't know that it was very useful, but we took first aid courses with St. John Ambulance in connection with this, and we packed parcels for prisoners. Down in the old Burroughs Welcome Plant in LaSalle, we would go once a month, I think. Maybe it was oftener. And we had an assembly line. As a box came along, you put the article you were responsible for into the box, and then the next person did the same. And we had blackouts. Everybody was supposed to be able to darken their house, and we went out to see that they did.
Second World War, we were living right here. And, of course, then it was my daughter's friends that were going. Many a goodbye party was held right over here across the road.
The Second World War marked the end of the resort era on the lakeshore. Summer houses were winterized, and many of their owners became year-round residents. The remaining farmlands were bought up, and returning veterans purchased bungalows in mushrooming suburban developments. By 1955, Lake St. Louis was declared too polluted for swimming, and one by one, the gazebos and bathhouses along the shoreline were demolished.
Well, it's just because the lakeshore has become so inhabited. So many people living here and so much sewage going into it. They've been very slow, I think, at taking care of the sewage problem.
Pointe Claire became a city in 1958, and today the lakeshore is home to a large chunk of Montreal's suburban Anglophones. What was once the Legault farm is now sprouting model homes and condominiums. The old train station no longer exists, and nor does the Maples Inn, which was burnt down in 1984, much to the satisfaction of local neighbors who had complained about the loud rock music and drunken teenagers for years.
Well, I think what I miss most is the music. In the big band era, you had many great bands. I'll say great because now you turn on the radio and all I can hear there is a bunch of noise, either guitars or clarinets. You don't hear too much music. And in the big band era, you heard not good dance music, songs where the singer, the vocalist didn't try to outdo the musicians. Now you turn it on, you're wondering who's going to win, the musicians or the vocalists.
Oh, well, yes, the music. Of course, the big band music I loved. And That I do miss. I can't say I like today's music. The rock and so forth, I'm afraid not. I like the beat, but I don't like the music.
Although Point Claire has seen many changes from the days of the resort era, the original village remains somewhat intact and has kept all of the charm that made it so attractive at the turn of the century. Most of the older structures exist to this day, and the lakeshore still offers many of its former activities. There is now a mixture of new generations, but like their predecessors, they have adopted the village mentality.
Oh, I've lived here all my life. I've gone to school here. Most of the merchants who are here, I've gone to school with them. I know them. It's my home, so I really enjoy it.
The mentality is
My kind of people. It's just nice and comfortable. There's no high pressure. There's no downtown hustle bustle. It's just nice, quiet, regular, good living.
Would you leave from Point Claire?
No. No. Had the opportunity several times. No. Never.
C'est un garçon marinier qui a fait faire un navire. C'est un garçon marinier qui a fait faire un navire. Qui a fait faire un navire. J'aime l'eau, le long de la l'eau, le long de l'île. J'aime la belle la le long de l'eau. Je ne sais plus de cet sentir pour la terre.
I like it very much. Very much. I like the atmosphere. The mentality is fine, you know. It's nice. It's a nice area to work in. I really love it. Really. Would you move out of here? Well, something really good came up, but I really like it here.
C'était la plus jolie, c'était la plus jolie. J'aime l'eau, le long de la l'eau, le long de l'île. J'aime la belle la le long de l'eau. Que vendez-vous, marié, qu'une femme en est envie?
I like it very much. It's a quiet kind of village. It's a low-key kind of place. There's good interaction between all the merchants. There's a good spirit in the village.
It's a nice place.
What do you do around here in the summer?
Well, we usually come to the ice cream parlor, go to the pool. We go to the pool over there. It's really fun.
Yeah. And do you have good friends?
Yeah.
And how do you like the people?
They're nice. I haven't ever seen someone really, like, everyone's so nice.
C'est un esprit, c'est vraiment comme une petite famille, c'est ici, je veux dire, tout le monde se connaît. Ça fait que...
I feel it's one of the best cities in the province.
Je ne serai pas ici, ça ne sera pas bon après 10 ans.
I think it's a nice place to be. Yes, and a nice place for children, nice place for older people.
I would compare Point Claire, one of the best communities on the whole island of Montreal.
Je suis très heureuse de vivre à Pointe-Claire. Et puis, j'ai déjà vécu en dehors pendant une vingtaine d'années. J'étais très heureuse d'y revenir et puis je ne voudrais pas quitter Pointe-Claire maintenant.
I think it's wonderful. I think I'm very glad, very happy to be around Pointe-Claire. Never think of moving out of it.
Oh, I think it's a great place to live. A great place to live.
So I want to show the documentary, and then I felt it was very important to show the person who was behind the video.
Yeah.
Because I want someone to do that to me in 37 years.
And I couldn't reach Brandon. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's start.
Okay, let's start.
So we just watched the video, and I was able to put it on YouTube because you found the VHS.
Yes. I'm happy I found it.
And so that means you hadn't seen it in a long time?
Yeah, since I had no VHS anymore. So that was quite a few years ago, maybe at least 15 years ago.
What did you think?
It wasn't too bad, actually, for something that was done such
Right.
a long time ago.
But were you...
With very limited means. I mean, we didn't have...
from the storytelling perspective and context of what they were saying.
Yeah.
Never mind the quality, because I mean it's VHS, and all, and it's been sitting for 30 whatever years.
Yeah, and it was
and it's
copy
letterbox,
of,
and we've become desensitized to anything that's not high definition now.
Unfortunately, any noise is...
That's it. It's not professional. But when you said not too bad, do you mean quality or the way that you pieced it together? What do you mean?
Yeah, quality, rhythm, it was okay.
Tell me about, what do you mean by the rhythm?
I think we're also used to faster pace, kind of editing, but I mean, we were interviewing older people and telling a story from the past, so it could have been bing, 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 but I don't think that was the point either,
But rhythm...
It was more of a take your time kind of thing, and even the music, everything was slower, and so, yeah. No, I just thought, the editing it's a little slow, but it's pretty good.
So you've also been desensitized from the way things were at that time.
For sure.
Since, I guess, the post-YouTube era, I guess.
I guess.
And also movies, were like, let's get to the point. What are you trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also B-roll, right? Show me some B-roll. Show me some imagery. Illustrate for me.
Yes.
So I don't want to use my imagination.
And even like any drama or TV show or even novels, I used to faster rhythm, faster pace.
And the soundtracks too. The soundtracks are... This is what you should be feeling right now.
Yeah, a lot more.
And it's
and it gets annoying.
Spoon feeding emotions.
Yeah.
And it's not leaving too much for the audience to discover on their own and make it their own.
I agree. I agree.
But this is something that was put on TV, no?
I think it aired on the community TV channel. I don't think it ever aired like on CBC. I think we had hoped.
Right.
But if I recall, it did not. But
that was never the plan?
That was the plan at the beginning.
Oh.
Like we wanted it to air on.
Is it because the rhythm
TV,
wasn't up to par?
I don't know. And that was 38 years ago. I do not remember.
Okay, so let's backtrack to how this got made. So in 1985, you're in school?
Yeah, we're all Concordia students. Brandon and I were comm studies, TV specialization, and Geraldine was in creative writing, if I recall. So we had decided to do the video, and Geraldine the written version, interviews and everything. So this came about. There was a government project funding, Challenge 85. So it was in 1985. And Brandon and Geraldine's mom worked at the community center, the West Island or Point Claire Community Center, I forget, with elderlies. And so she brought stories home to Brandon and his sister. And so they decided that, hey, we should do something about that. Put all these recollections in writing and maybe do a video. So Brandon was the one who had applied for the grant. Yeah. So you had to apply, submit the idea, blah, blah, blah. Like, I forget how many months before we had submitted the whole package. And he put it there, and we got the grant. So we were paid like minimum wage for, I don't know, 3 months. And,
oh my God.
And we had a very small budget.
Minimum wage, and that included, I guess, rentals, any kind of rental.
Like $500 for budget
and everything.
Production budget.
Was all the gear rented from the university? You were able to rent it from them?
If I recall, we got the camera from the university, and we had gone over to Sony.
Yes, because they're in the credits.
To beg for tapes. And they had given us cases of tapes.
What?
It was 3/4 back then. So those big 3/4 tapes. But
I thought you recorded on VHS.
No. 3/4.
Were you recording on VHS at that time too? Straight to VHS in the cameras?
No, we are all our portable equipment was in 3/4.
And audio was a separate system completely, or that went right onto tape?
Yeah, that one ran right onto the tape.
Okay.
So they gave us a bunch of tapes, but they were all 15-minute tapes. So
and these guys
it was very nice, but 15-minute tapes. So we had to change the tapes quite often and carry a big bag of tapes whenever we went somewhere.
Oh my God.
But we managed, and it didn't cost us anything. And we had done the editing at school also. Part of the financing also came, I think, from the community center, Pointe Claire Community Center, or not quite sure. But like we reported there. It was like our head office for the summer. We did all the viewing and everything and pre-editing. Oh, and dubbing or translation. I did the simultaneous translation in English for the French interview. No, but there was a French interview.
Oh, I see.
So all the French interviews I did because Brandon didn't really speak French, so I did all the dubbing so we could edit and have a pretty timed.
With Madame Legault, I think.
Yeah, Madame Legault.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was Madame Legault. So.
Okay, so you have the idea, because I'm very interested in the process. Because I know that having an idea is one thing, and coming up with kind of a concept of what you'll do and so on is another thing. But then you have to actually learn about what you're talking about, right? Did you have to learn a little bit about what you wanted to do? Or did you just say, let's just do interviews and then let's piece something together?
Yeah, because, you have an idea of what you're going to find. I mean, there is a history.
Well, was there a history?
Well.
Because the only other...
Was there something written or, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, the holy grail of history of Pointe Claire that exists is Brian Matthews' book, A History of Pointe Claire, which was published in 1985.
Okay.
So I doubt that you had that as a reference.
We did not.
So today,
so it was mainly
would have
people.
At least that.
Oh yeah, it was mainly people. People, pictures, and people had pictures also. And we did a lot more interviews than, like pre-interviews, than the people that actually ended up on tape.
Well, not everybody
like for the interview, exactly. Or some wanted to speak with us, but didn't want to be on camera. So there was a lot of information collected and pictures also collected from other people that did not appear on camera, but we got a lot of information from them too.
So you went and you said, let's just do, you gave yourselves an amount of time to shoot interviews.
Yeah.
And then after you took those interviews and created something contextually.
Yeah.
Contextually put things
in
together.
In the timeline, of course, the historical timeline, but
yeah.
And we wanted to have different areas also.
Because
we wanted village people, and
like Herb spoke a lot about Valois, for example. He was the king of Valois, apparently. Because in doing this, I know how much tape you didn't use. I could just tell.
Oh, of course.
Because at the end, it was like a rapid fire of people that just had those one-liners.
Yeah.
And I was saying
anecdotes.
And I was saying to Emily, guaranteed those were at least 5 to 10 minute long interviews, and you just extracted. So I'm sure there was a ton that you didn't use in this.
Oh, for sure.
A ton.
For sure.
Okay, so the editing, you did the editing, right?
With Brandon, yeah, we had done the editing together.
What was that process like?
Well, we'd been we did our bachelor's together, and we worked on a lot of projects together, so it was, we worked well together, so it was easy, well, fairly easy. And we knew as we were shooting and as, like, you know,
Ideas
we knew,
were popping up.
yeah, we knew where we were going. We had a, you know, like a canvas to begin with. And as we were shooting, okay, this, oh, we're going to do this with that. Okay, now if we focus on that part and, you know, how we're going to put everything together and in what order. And,
Right.
no, so that went well.
The other part of this project you said was the transcripts? Someone had written all the, written down
Yeah,
all
Geraldine. Yeah.
Okay, so I did find that in the library.
Okay.
And it was that transcript that gave me the motivation to not make the stories big and elaborate, but to bring them down to grassroots. Where was your bus stop when you went to school?
Mm-hmm.
That's the stuff that I read in those transcripts. Where did the ice come from?
Yeah.
How high was the snow in the winter? And I'm thinking, shoot, this is the stuff that I want to know about.
Yeah.
Because now I can compare it to me and today.
Yeah.
Not who was the mayor and the government and all this stuff.
Not the history,
connect
not the dates, the history.
No. I want to know when you woke up in the morning, how easy was it to make a pot of coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have it? Did you have to put wood in? Did you, you know, what was just to boil water? Did you have cereal? What was it like in the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what the Challenge 85 transcript gave me. So I didn't even know there was a video. I just thought it was a collection. Someone spoke to people and typed it. And then when I found out there was a video, I freaked out. We freaked out here. We freaked out. We had no idea.
Yeah.
And so by the time we got this, I had known about Herb Emberg. I think I had spoken to his niece at that point.
Okay.
I think I'd already done a video about the country club.
That is
So to see him talking,
35 years
it blew me away. But it's
oh, he was a character. He was so funny.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, he was really into it.
So you had an inn with what was it, the West Island Community Center?
Yeah, so I remember Point Claire or
was
Point
it old age
Claire.
home or?
No, it was really the community center.
Oh,
So
yeah?
I think where all sorts of things happened. There were actually people working there, but there was probably I don't know, the curling club and the whatever, you know.
Mhm, mhm. And that's where you
different
found your
associations.
people.
That's where actually it was from Brandon's mom who was involved with Order People that then we had a list of people. And so we visited them, most of them, in their home.
Yeah.
To do like
pre-interview.
The pre-interview. And collect information at the same time, even if they weren't on camera, and then selected the most, you know, energetic people.
Rhythmic.
Rhythmic, and those that were at ease in front of the camera.
I'm sure when Herb
that
answered the
agreed
door,
and-
you said easy.
no problem with Herb. He was a natural.
Oh my God.
And some weren't natural, but they said, okay, I
Art
can
also,
do this.
Art Legault had a bit
Yeah.
of swagger.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was a store owner, right? He owned a store.
Yeah, in the village.
Yeah, because I have advertisements of Art Legault going back to the 50s in the Lakeshore News.
Yeah, so we had people from the village who actually lived there all year round,
Mm-hmm.
and people that lived in the city and for whom it was their cottage or their summer place, who actually came in carriages when they were kids for the weekend or for their vacation or for the summer, because it was still a long ride from the end of Montreal.
Before the highway was
Oh,
before the
of course.
20 was put in.
It was by the
20
lakeshore
Yeah,
and a
yeah.
buggy on a dirt road.
Highway 37, I think it was called. It had a number because
It had the name Highway.
I think I don't know if it said highway, but it was or maybe it was given a name highway because it was the Montreal to Toronto
Oh yeah.
Boulevard, And then that name transferred up to the 20, but it did have
was
a number.
the King's
though.
Road and the Queen's
Yeah,
Road.
King's Road
and
originally was King's Road. Yeah.
Le Chemin du Roi.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we wanted diversity also.
Yep.
Which we got, like the rich vacationers and the farmers and the villagers who tended to these people.
What about
and lived here?
The younger ones.
The kids.
I mean the 50 and under. Yeah.
I just got a few people. I don't even know. I don't think they were planned.
Oh no!
The younger ones. Like the kids,
you just went
like,
somewhere?
hey,
You just plucked them?
Yeah, we're just shooting in the village, and it's like, hey, kids, you want to talk to us for a few minutes, kind of thing. If I recall, the kids, it was like that.
I would be nervous. I would think we're getting too much footage because I would always be thinking about the editing, and having 20 more minutes of stuff to go through.
But we didn't have that much. We had 15-minute tapes.
Well, I'm sure each one of them was at least a tape and a half to 2 tapes, no?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then a lot of visual and also all the pictures that we took. We had pictures that we reproduced, made 8x10s to shoot them with them. So, yeah.
Yeah, you had to shoot the picture to get that.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, like a card show we called in school.
Really?
A card show, yeah. But
So
a lot of them were small pictures that we shot and that we reprinted.
I want you to be honest with me.
Okay.
Were you emotionally invested in this project when you were doing it? Did it happen as you were doing it, or what was your?
It happened more as I was
a
doing
history
it.
person, right? History is an interesting.
No.
Topic.
It wasn't like, yay, I'm gonna do a nice historical project. It was like, hey, it's cool. It's a summer job, minimum wage, okay. But in my
in the field. Yeah.
So and I'm working with people I love to work with. What more can I ask for? And it just so happens that the subject was great, that the people we interviewed and we met were rich. It was
fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
You're
It was a
people
great
person.
experience. Yeah, I am.
So meeting new people we can't, we don't
No.
need to be paid to
No. And everyone's story was interesting and touching and,
I wanted you to come here because I wanted to tell you how important I think this is. I think you know how important it is, but for someone who's doing something similar now,
yeah,
this is, I would say, one of the most valuable historical treasures in Point Claire that's available. For someone to learn about something,
yeah.
One of the most, because there's not many. I mean, it doesn't have much competition, though, to be honest with you.
But I'm
That's the
happy.
sad
I'm
thing.
happy we did it, and I'm happy you're giving it a second life. Making
It's
known.
It's so bloody valuable because the generation, and it's going to make people, I think, very emotional because I don't feel like we captured this generation when we should have. Maybe the technology wasn't there.
Yeah,
we didn't all own cameras at the time. Now we can phone, but even now we're all moving forward. We're not looking back so much.
No.
Any last thoughts that you have on this?
Listen, it started off like just a student summer job project. I didn't even quit my other job because it didn't pay enough. So, and I think it turned out as a very nice document with all capturing big part of history, and a very diversified also. So yeah, I'm glad it saw life, and I'm glad it's reliving now in another format.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
That was too formal.